Nottingham, it's not all lace and Robin Hood. Today we'll be exploring the historical homes of Nottingham. We'll be looking at the stories from the past and the details of the families that live there. Stories that are hidden in the cracks of the walls, just waiting to be aired. Today we'll be looking and taking a look around one of the most prestigious homes of the area, Clifton Hall. Clifton Hall was built in 1086 for defensive reasons. It was built on the summit of a cliff overlooking the woodland of Clifton Grove and the meandering River Trent below us. After generations of modifications and extensions, the original watchtower fortification has been adapted to the private stately home you see today.
What you see of Clifton Hall today is really due to three very famous architects: John Thorpe, John Smithson and John Carr of York, 1800s. That's what you're looking at today.
Carr added a predominant bow to the end of the house, as well as a wealth of fine plasterwork, including the sheer beauty and detail of the Jacobean-style octagonal hall, where in all 8 alcoves you find a plastered figure of Roman goddesses and gods. The greatest thrill of this hall is the pages room dating from 1630, which has more than 50 Delftly painted panels of soldiers from the century. Each painting is the same size and style, showing a musketeer or pikeman. The soldiers all look to be from the Civil War period.
Now, to go back into the Clifton history, it's the only family in Nottinghamshire that had a direct descendant for the last 750 years, the landed gentry. And everyone in the Clifton family, from generation to generation, seems to have the two favourite names of Gervase or Robert.
Beyond the grounds of the hall stands St Mary's Church. The building dates back to 1086, when it was almost certainly made of stone and wood. None of the original building stands today. The oldest part of the present building consists of the 2 northeast arches and the pillars of the nave. On the south side of the church is a doorway dating back to 1632. It opens into the Clifton Vault, where lie some 25 coffins containing the mortal remains of generation after generation of knights and their dames. Among them is a small leaden coffin, doubtless from its shape and size, containing a human heart, believed to belong to Sir William Clifton, a crusader.
The crusader's heart could have been the heart of one of the Cliftons who went with Richard I on a crusade. They couldn't bring back the body. They knew that once the heart stopped, that was the end of life. They always had lead for arrows, so they enclosed it and brought it back for the widow. It also could belong to a Sir Gervase who was killed at the Battle of Tewkesbury.
This engraving here signifies the name of the Indian prince. This was a gentleman called Joseph, who was a very good friend of the Clifton family. He was reported to be 6'7" tall. He was such a close friend of the family that he was actually buried here in this very church.
We don't know how he came to be in Clifton, but he could have been a present from some of the Cliftons who had gone to the Indies and had plantations. He could have been a present from a sea captain, because there is no doubt that the Cliftons would have been in some of that trade, even if they didn't own plantations and slaves. He was called the Indian Prince because, of course, everybody thought those islands were the Indies where all the spice came from.
The name of the public house, the Black Boy Hotel, which once stood in Long Row, was named in his honour, and it has since been demolished to make way for a shopping complex.
People came to see him because he was so tall and so majestic, and he probably would have been a valet. I myself think he was the first black man in Nottingham. He was here before George Africanus came and opened a business.
Clifton Grove is a peaceful woodland. It runs from Clifton Bridge along the banks of the River Trent for about 2 miles. The avenue that you see before you was planted by Sir William Clifton in 1677 and would have been the main entrance to the house and the hall itself.
Well, imagine round about the 1880s, early 1880s, the famous J.M. Barrie, James Matthew Barrie, who wrote Peter Pan, is walking along there with his great friend, Henry Kirkwine, wonderful poet, and so the story goes. Running past them, it was a lovely sunny day, and running past them is a little lad, 8, 9 or 10. And imagine a little boy running along there. And Barry is supposed to have said, see that little boy running there? He doesn't cast a shadow. And he's like a little boy from Never Never Land. And his name is Peter. Hence the story of Peter Pan. Wonderful idea at Clifton Grove, isn't it? Absolutely.
Folklore stories featured in many of Nottingham's history books tell us of a tale mentioning Clifton Hall. The Cliftons who occupied the hall in the Middle Ages were forewarned of an imminent death in their family, an ill omen manifested by the sight of a royal sturgeon swimming up the River Trent and circling around the grove. It was during the 19th century that Sir Robert Clifton became a very notable and well-known character on the Clifton estate. He fell victim to gambling as he often attended Nottingham races, placing bets, but unsuccessfully. He built Wilford Toll Bridge and Clifton Colliery to generate money to pay off his debts. A statue of Sir Robert can be seen to this day at the foot of Wilford Toll Bridge. The house's next incarnation would be as a girls' school, which opened for the 1958-59 school year. It remained for almost 2 decades.
Where the houses are going up the rise, that is where all the workrooms were for the school, such as domestic science, geography, labs and the assembly hall.
Miss Heron was the headmistress at the school for most of the school's opening and was much loved and respected. She provided one of these beautiful lions when the original one fell into disrepair. The original lion has a legible date of 1840. The lions are not the only ornamental structure to be found in the gardens of this hall. A folly, or a summer house, created by Lord Burlington in the 1740s was also found. In 1919, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Thomas Clifton succeeded his father as owner of the Clifton estates.
Well, Peter Clifton was the last of the line to own the property before it was compulsory purchased for the large estate which was built for slum clearance after the war.
Peter Clifton didn't like the idea anyway of being compulsory purchased. Just previous to all that, the Basford City Council, or Urban Council I believe it was called, condemned around 30 cottages as unfit to live in, and they wanted to demolish them, and he thought it would spoil the village. The villagers, it affected all their life being really, because they lost all the land and the lifelong work. Well, they were called Wimpy Fine Houses, and if I recall, to build there were about 1,300. Fine house was a frame, a steel girder frame with cement and sand on a aggregate of that was put into the frame. So that's why the houses went up so quickly.
As you can see from today, Nottingham isn't all about green tights and lace. It's about beautiful homes and very wealthy families. Today, you've heard about Clifton Hall, a house that was once fit for a king, but is now a family residence. My name's Barry John. Thank you for joining us today. Visit us next time to visit more beautiful homes of Nottinghamshire.
I think people in Clifton are brilliant.